Echoes from the final concert, a poignant farewell to the Prince of Darkness. The air was thick with anticipation as dusk settled over Birmingham. It was a night no one wanted to come, and ending years in the making, heavy with memory, trembling with hope. The stage at Villa Park stood bathed in an otherworldly glow, lights slowly flickering to life as if the stadium itself was holding its breath. 45,000 voices whispered, laughed, and cried. Strangers joined in an unspoken pact to say goodbye not just to a rock star, but to an era, to a feeling, to Ozzy Osbourne, the man who had been the heartbeat of their rebellion, the soundtrack to their wildest dreams and darkest nights. For days, the city had buzzed with rumors and emotion. People arrived from across continents, tattooed, leather-clad old friends, and baby-faced kids who only knew Ozzy from stories or grainy YouTube clips. They carried banners, shirts from decades past, homemade signs splashed with love and gratitude. But what brought them together was something deeper than nostalgia. It was the understanding that this concert was more than a performance. It was a pilgrimage, a final embrace, a chance to tell a living legend that he had mattered, that he had saved them, in small and spectacular ways. Backstage, the atmosphere was charged and bittersweet. Ozzy Osbourne, now 76, sat quietly with Sharon, their hands linked. The years had carved lines into his face, and his body bore the scars of 1,000 battles, but there was still a boyish gleam in his eye, the hint of mischief that had made him a hero to misfits everywhere. Doctors had cautioned him to rest, but Ozzy would not hear of it. One more for the home crowd, he insisted, voice gravelly but determined. This was Birmingham, his city, his cradle, the place that had both broken and built him. If this was to be the end, then it would be on his terms, with his people. As the first notes of Iron Man thundered out into the night, the stadium erupted. Fireworks painted the sky, the stage shook, and every soul in the audience felt the electricity of something unrepeatable. Ozzy's voice, though worn, soared above it all, imperfect and human, trembling with feeling, rising to meet the roar of the crowd. Fans sang every word back to him, voices ragged with emotion, tears streaming down faces that had seen decades slip by since Black Sabbath first made them believe in magic. Up close, you could see Ozzy's eyes shine with something beyond performance. He looked out over the sea of faces, a living ocean of devotion, and smiled through tears he didn't bother to hide. In those moments, he wasn't just the Prince of Darkness. He was a father, a husband, a survivor, someone who had made it through to the other side and brought his people with him. Between songs, he spoke with raw honesty, voice cracking. You saved me, all of you. I'd be nothing without you. Thank you for giving this broken man a reason to keep going. The words echoed in the quiet, falling like a blessing. Among the crowd, the Osbourne family stood close, huddled in a quiet corner of the stage. Kelly and Jack clung to each other, memories rushing back in a flood, childhood nights on tour buses, whispered prayers in hospital rooms, the endless push and pull of public life. For them, this concert was a lifetime in miniature, every struggle, every triumph, every whispered secret bound up in the music. Sharon, always Ozzy's rock, watched with pride and fear, her eyes never leaving the man she had loved and fought for through it all. As the setlist unfolded, the hits kept coming: Crazy Train, Mama, I'm Coming Home, Paranoid. Each song became a kind of communal confession, a ritual of joy and grief. Strangers hugged. Old friends wept on each other's shoulders. Somewhere in the crowd, a father lifted his young daughter onto his shoulders so she could see the legend before her, tears glistening in his eyes as he mouthed the words, "This is Ozzy. This is history." And the little girl, barely old enough to understand, clapped along, swept up in a current bigger than herself. Near the end, the mood shifted from celebration to something deeper, more reverent. Ozzy paused between songs, looking out into the darkness, and spoke softly, "I never thought I'd see this day. You're my family. You've always been there when I was lost, when I was down, you picked me up. This is not just my last show. This is our last show." The crowd responded with a roar, not of triumph, but of gratitude, of shared loss. For a long moment, time seemed to stop. All the lights in the stadium dimmed, and cell phones glowed like constellations in the night. A hush fell as Ozzy began to sing goodbye to romance. His voice was fragile but unwavering. The lyrics, once a teenage anthem, now felt like a confession, a love letter to the life he had lived and the fans who had never let him go. "Yesterday has been and gone / tomorrow will I find the sun or will it rain," he sang, and the words hung in the air, more question than answer. Around him, his bandmates played softly, allowing space for every syllable, every memory. As the final chords faded, Ozzy knelt on the stage, overcome. The audience erupted into a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. Flowers rained down from the stands. There were chants of "Thank you, Ozzy," so loud they rattled the metal beams of the stadium. The energy was overwhelming, an outpouring of love so fierce, so genuine, that it left everyone trembling. It was not just the end of a concert. It was the end of a journey that began in the smoky clubs of Birmingham more than 50 years ago, a journey marked by wild highs and crushing lows, by addiction and recovery, by scandal and redemption. Ozzy's music had always told the truth, no matter how dark or messy. He gave his pain to the world, and the world gave him love in return. After the show, the family lingered backstage, unwilling to let the moment slip away. Musicians, friends, and even celebrities like Jason Momoa, who had flown in just for this night, lined up to pay their respects. Sharon hugged her husband, whispering words that only they would ever know. Kelly wiped her tears and snapped a final photo, wanting to remember her father not as the world saw him, but as he was in that instant, vulnerable, joyful, infinitely loved. Outside, the streets of Birmingham buzzed with energy. Fans spilled into pubs and cafes, sharing stories and replaying videos. For many, the concert felt like a homecoming, a return to something pure and vital that the world too often tries to take away. They talked about how Ozzy's music had carried them through heartbreak and loss, through loneliness and fear. Some had tattoos inked in his honor, others carried faded ticket stubs from gigs long ago, each artifact a reminder that music could still save lives. Long after the stadium emptied and the last echoes of music faded into the night, people lingered, unwilling to say goodbye. They picked up mementos, a guitar pick, a torn piece of poster, a handful of confetti. These scraps, seemingly insignificant, became sacred, a physical link to a night that would live forever in memory. Even as they left, the crowd seemed to move as one, bound by something stronger than words. In the days that followed, videos from the concert flooded social media, shared by millions around the world. News outlets ran tributes, replaying the highlights, interviewing fans who struggled to describe what they had witnessed. "It was magic," said one. "It was closure," said another. But for most, it was something deeper, a reminder that music, at its best, is about more than notes and lyrics. It is about connection, about the way one person's pain and hope can ripple out and change the lives of strangers. For the Osbourne family, the final concert was both an ending and a beginning. It marked the close of a chapter that had defined their lives, but also the start of a new kind of legacy, one built not just on records and awards, but on memory, on gratitude, on the unbreakable bonds of love. Sharon later said, "We thought we were giving the fans a goodbye, but really, they were giving one to us." Kelly wrote in her journal, "He's still my dad. On stage or off, that will never change." For Jack, the night was a lesson in endurance, in the way families can survive even the harshest spotlight. In the quiet that came after, Ozzy himself seemed at peace. Friends said he listened to recordings of the concert in his study, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, always grateful. He knew, as only someone who has lived so close to the edge can know, that these moments are rare and precious. He said to Sharon one night, "If that was my last, it was the best I could hope for." She smiled through her tears, replying, "It was enough, love. More than enough." And so, as the world moves on, as new stars rise and new music fills the airwaves, the echo of that final night in Birmingham remains a beacon for anyone who has ever loved, ever lost, ever found themselves saved by a song. The Prince of Darkness took his final bow, but the light he left behind still shines, warming those who were lucky enough to be there, and even those who simply wish they had been. In the end, it was not just a concert, not just an ending. It was a love story between an artist and his people, between a family and a dream, between memory and hope. The music may have stopped, but the echoes carry on. And in every heart that beats a little faster when Paranoid plays, in every outstretched hand at the front of the stage, in every whispered thank you, Ozzy Osbourne lives on, forever the Prince of Darkness, forever our own.